Okay, Mercedes W203, what we're replacing today is the cross strut, which you could also call a lower control arm, and it includes comes with the ball joint. The ball joint is not separate. And it goes from the bottom of the chassis right here, and then goes along and up underneath to the bottom of the steering knuckle right there, and unbolts. So obviously I've got the wheel up on jack stands, and it's basically a 2-bolt procedure, and then an alignment, because as you can see, the hole in there is eccentric. It moves back and forth. It's not a perfectly round hole, so unfortunately I have to have an alignment. So the reason I'm replacing this is there's a little bit of movement in the lower ball joint. This car's got low mileage, but it was all in town, downtown driving, a lot of streetcar tracks and stuff like that. So 80,000 kilometers is really early for a ball joint to go on a Mercedes, but on really rough roads it is not. So anyway, I will get the tools out and be back in a second. Unfortunately, in order to get to the back bolt on the front of the torque strut, or the lower cross strut, you have to remove the plastic undershield. Bunch of 8mm bolts, one there. I think we can get away with removing 2. One right there and one right there. I think we can get those 2 off and we should be able to get to it. If not, I'll have to pull the whole splash pan off, which is, I think, 4 more. But just 8mm bolts, so I'm going to pull that off and be back in a minute. Okay, so all the bolts under here are 21mm. The nut for the top of the ball joint is a 21. And the 2 holding the rear of the strut on are also 21s. I'm going to loosen this all the way. Always make sure when you're loosening ball joints or tie rod ends, before you get the tie rod end free, loosen the nut all the way so that the nut spins freely on the threads. Or else once you get it freed, if that nut's not spinning freely, you're just going to spin the hole. You end up with it not moving properly, or not able to move. So now we've got it loosened, I'm going to grab a hammer. And give it a few whacks on the control arm, not the strut. I'm hitting the control arm here on the steering knuckle. That should break it free most of the time. Usually it does. I am going to using a pry bar, put a bit of downward pressure on the arm at the same time. If I can get underneath something. Oh, there we go. It did loosen up. So it did come off. Sorry, I'm hoping my head's not in your way. honestly, filming this stuff so people can see what you're doing is actually harder than it seems that it would be. It's really hard to get an angle that everyone can see and not be in the way at the same time. So there's the nut off. And, oops. Okay, it is loose. So once I get this unbolted, let's move you over here. Hopefully you can see. And because I want to get this back in the same relative position before I go to take it from alignment, I'm going to just take a Sharpie and mark on the chassis where that washer ended up on both sides. So I can get it semi-lined up. Now again, this is a 21 millimeter again. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. Again, if my big fat head is getting in your way, I do apologize. It just does not want to fit under there. Not properly, anyway. Strip that bolt. So I'm going to take this nut off and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've abandoned the gloves because turning the camera on and off with them on is ridiculous. And it's as simple as that. Well, that ball joint's pretty loose and wimpy. Come on, go up in there. It's a little bit stiff. Not quite. I'm tapping on the, banging on the heat shield there. Nice noise. Come on, line up. I think. No? Come on. There we go. I don't know if those were thread locked from the factory, but I'm going to thread lock them again. Oh, well. Okay. Up here's my thread locker. It's trying to escape. Christ. That's a little tiny hole. It shouldn't come squirting out like that. Wow. Isn't that fun? Okay. Now, if the camera runs out on me, torque for this bolt is 80 Newton meters, which is, oh crap. Okay, this bolt is 60 foot-pounds plus 1/3 of a turn. So 60 foot-pounds plus 1/3 of a full turn. This bolt, or this nut on the ball joint is 37 foot-pounds plus 1/4 of it, or sorry, 1/6 of a turn. So 60 degrees. 60 foot-pounds plus 120 degrees. 37 foot-pounds plus 60 degrees. I'm only saying that now because I think my camera battery's got not much longer to live. And of course this isn't a 21, this is probably a 22 on the new bolt. And I'm gonna want to, I'd like to do that, I'd like to do the final tightening on that with the weight of the vehicle on the car. So I'm going to put the jack, once I get this one tightened up, I'm going to put the jack under here and preload the suspension up a little bit so that I tighten that once it simulates the weight of the vehicle being on the car. Because all suspension carrying bolts, like lower control arms and stuff like that, should always be tightened, do their final tightening with the weight of the vehicle on them, if at all possible. If it's not possible whatsoever, obviously you can't do it. But if at all possible, do it with the weight of the vehicle on the car, or on the weight of the vehicle on the wheels, so the suspension is up and you tighten it there, or else you'll over torque the rubber inside there. It's going to twist and snap and be completely useless. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to grab and tighten these up again. What did I say? 37 foot-pounds plus 60 degrees, which is 1/6 of a full turn, and 60 foot-pounds plus 1/3 of a full turn for that. But I'll come back and jack this up in a second. Okay, I got the weight of the front end taken up by an old small jack. I've got the torque wrench on the front control arm. I've got those washers lined up as good as I could get them, front and back. And I've got the torque wrench set for 60 foot-pounds. Okay, so there's the click. So now I'm going to, I'll use a wrench for the rest of it. An open-ended wrench because of the bellows on the steering rack. This is a bitch to get off. So I'm basically going to mark the bolt and then mark the same mark on the, I'm going to mark the bolt and the body and then mark where 1/3 of a turn will be, and then using the open-ended wrench, the 21mm wrench, I'm going to turn the mark till it's 1/3 of a turn. Bingo, that's it, done. And that's it, wheel back on, everything's done. Thanks for watching.